Hello and welcome to the Ride It Out podcast, the official podcast of Summonat's the world's wildest car festival. My name's Jay Benz. I'm joined by my mate Owen Webb, aka O-Dub. Webby, where have you? What's going on in your world, mate?
Mate, plenty going on in my world. I've been out and about again this week. I've done only in New South Wales. Definitely haven't been south of the border or any overseas trips, but really busy with work. No, really busy with work again and really enjoying it. And yeah, a little bit of work on my car. Next week, I'm going to put a update picture of where I'm at with my car. So awesome.
Yeah, nice. I might do put my foot in it here, but I might do the same thing because I've been making a little plan about what's going to happen with my VL and a few things. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to. I'm talking to a few mates of mine, so it's going to be interesting build.
And I've mentioned to you quite a few times, Jay Benz, about how many new cars and that we've got. But I got a message today. I've got another guy with 4 cars. He's a builder. He's got 4 cars. We're going to end up with over 40 brand new cars at either Motor X or Summonats or split up between both of them. So it's just been a fantastic time.
You'll need a shoulder reconstruction after pulling all those sheets off, mate.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really good. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but we'll have all these new cars this year, and it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and being there in person to watch that happen is nothing better. Like you can watch it online later on, but being there, you've got to be there.
Got to be there.
Absolutely.
You have to be there. And then the big part of that is a lot of these guys have put 3, 4, 5 years into building these cars. And I think what's happened now, but with the whole lockdown thing from the beginning of this year, they've just really all hooked in and got them done. So, yeah.
And probably will find, I guess, that people have gone about 1 or 2% extra too. They're like, you know what, I got that bit of time. I'll get under the car and fix that little bit, and these suspension arms and make them mint.
Correct.
All sorts of stuff.
Definitely.
Awesome. Definitely, mate. All right. Let's get on with the show. This show is going to be mad. We've got the mastermind behind World Time Attack Challenge that's held at Sydney Motorsport Park, Ian Baker. He's one of my favourite people. He's a crazy guy. He's super cruisy, but he's funny, and I think everybody's going to really enjoy this interview. You've had a little bit to do with him before, Webby, as well?
Yeah, terrific guy. I think I went to his first event, actually, and then he's supported us with Motor X back in the early days, and then we just had a great relationship. So yeah, terrific guy, a lot of passion.
Yeah, he's a great bloke. He says what he does, He does what he says, I should say.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah, he does.
Exactly. All right. Then we've got Simon Telford, who is who's just handed over the reins to Street Machine to Andrew Broadley. But we've got Telf on to talk about his time at Street Machine, how his automotive journey shaped as a kid from cars when he was young to getting old. Not old, but he's going to give me a smack in the jaw, I think, if I call him old.
He's not old, but he's done a lot in that short time. Yeah.
He's got an old head, I guess, in a sense of now I'm putting my foot in it even more, aren't I?
No, I know what you mean, but he's achieved a lot in a short amount of time. So yeah, exactly.
This is why we got you here, mate, for the words of wisdom. Baker and Telford, how about that, Webby? It's good, eh?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Two great guys.
Yeah, looking forward to chatting with those guys. But we want to let you guys know this is the second last episode of season 1. So we've got an episode coming next week as well. Don't make sure you tune in for that one. That one's going to be killer. Obviously, we're not into this one yet. This one's going to be killer as well. But this is it. Yeah, it's going to be season 1. I think we've had quite a few guests on, mate. Like for everyone from champion football players, boxers.
Yeah.
It's been good.
We've had some of the best sporting people, entertainers, rappers, and then we probably had the best drag racing guy, the best.
V8 world champion.
V8 supercar drivers and just drivers in general, and John Bow and Jim Richards. So yeah, we have had a great group of people on, and enjoyed.
Rob Wishart, we can't forget Rob Wishart.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, absolutely enjoyed talking to all of them. Obviously, it's been a lot of information about them, but I reckon we've learned a lot and shared a lot of that stuff. I've had a lot of comments from people outside saying, "Oh, I didn't know that guy was in the cars," or "I didn't know this was happening. I didn't know he'd done all that." And that was really good.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to get all these guys on here and get into their heads about everything automotive, and people. Yeah. A lot of people some of the people that we've had on, most people wouldn't even know, like you said.
Yeah, and like even people like Victor, he's a he's a car guy, and a lot of people would have heard of Victor Burnout. But that interview with him and Ben, it was just awesome. They were just really, really.
He's a funny guy, Victor.
Yeah, and everybody has been so giving with their time, and they've all enjoyed it. So, it's been terrific.
Awesome. All right, we're going to cut to a skid break, and we'll be back with Ian Baker.
Skid ad.
This skid ad is brought to you by Burson Auto Parts. Man.
And this guy is one of the best few in the world. There's no doubting that whatsoever. Steve Loader in UC Smoke. Big block, blown injected Chevy up the front of this HT Premier. Beautiful car it is.
Trying to qualify a reload into the Masters. Couldn't quite get the double ticket, so he's going to stick to what he knows with UC Smoke. And I'm seeing plenty of it right now.
Good start from Steve. Nice high-speed tip-in. Good levels of smoke. A little bit of flamage out the back, but it looks like it's gone away.
Geez, that fire would want to stay away right now because this is a good skid. If the fire gets worse, the fireys will jump in there and call it quits to it.
Yeah, instant smoke was great, as we saw. Constant smoke has been good all the way through. The volume of smoke is huge.
Oh.
Back up to the start line. Good driving.
Oh, it didn't quite hit the wall. I think that was just the smoke.
Just the exhaust blowing the sign around. And he's got the tyres off already.
Oh, it's quick.
That's pretty quick. I think that's going to cost him not getting to the 60-second mark. Unfortunate for Steve, because it was such a tough skid.
It was big, all right. Driving it around, maybe trying to fool the judges that it's going for longer than a minute.
That's just party time. He's come all the way up here.
Oh, man, not a bad score, but not quite there. Crowd goes up. We have 2 Victorians that have made it through to the final 10 here today. We'll see Pink Ramooses soon, but that's right on board with this skid for what was a powerful tip-in.
Yeah, nice tip-in. He's got it in nice and early, and you can see he's come around and done a genuine 360. He had an opening to go back down to the finish line, but chose to stay in the middle of the pad again. That might have cost him a point or two on his driver's skill as well. But yeah, just getting those tyres off in 45 seconds or so, that's what's cost him one of the biggest scores of the day. He's still happy though.
All right, we're here with the rock star of World Time Attack, the Bald Rock Hotel's most favourite son, and West Ham's #1 ticket holder, Ian Baker. What's happening, mate?
How are you, Josh? Good to speak to you, mate.
Absolutely, mate. In your wildest dreams, would you ever think that you'd run a festival that's probably one of the country's favourite automotive, get-togethers?
Well, I guess it was always the plan, really. It started out as a small little thing, and then I always had the big vision to do that, though. Yeah,
nice. So you've grown up in Sydney, Ian, is that right?
Yeah, from Sydney, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Digging through your socials and looking on the back wall there, it seems you're a skater at heart and a bit of a muso.
Used to be, yeah, when I was younger, but I guess I never really grew up, so.
You pick up the guitar quite a bit too, I'm told.
I used to, till I cut my finger off in 2011. I actually had over 100 guitars at one stage, but then I lost my finger in an industrial accident, and I haven't played since because I can't really.
Okay, fair enough. You haven't tried to put the slide on the end, or tried the
slide? It's sort of, I only ever did it for fun. So once it wasn't fun anymore, I just move on to something else,
Yeah, nice. What kind of music were you into as a kid, or even now?
Rock and roll, and bit of blues and that sort of stuff, and a bit of everything really.
Yeah, nice. Just to get into cars, what was your first car? What kicked it off for you? Is it something that was handed down to you, the like for cars, or?
No, not at all. But I did my apprenticeship as a fitter and turner at Commonwealth Engineering. We built trains, but I guess always from day one, I was just the first word before I said mum, I said car, right? And then I just grew up. It was from even before I had a license, I bought a Volkswagen and I sort of tinkered with that in the shed, and then I finished up. We built crazy 2.1 litre engines, 2.2 litre engines, all that stuff, and then eventually I finished up putting a Mazda rotary in it. Back then, Mazda rotary was sort of an unheard of thing, really, and I bought the 13B for $200, and then went for a whole series of things with that, and I run a business from my mum's garage, basically selling secondhand parts, and just did a bit of, from day one I sort of had that stuff, and in the end, the car, it was still my daily driver, and that engine I had in it actually came 7th outright at Bathurst in the Easy Pab RX-7. The peripheral ports, they had to pre-mix the fuel, and this is all like a long time. This is in the 80s, so it was it was pretty cool, though. Cool thing. The neighbours certainly knew when I was coming home.
I remember when we had Mad Mike on, we were talking to him, and he said that he some of the first rotary engines, he was porting them in the garage with like a you know, with the drill bit.
So I always bought the engines done. You could buy the whole car, you know, with an engine, a 51 IDA in it, and then I'd swap that motor out, put my old motor in there, and take the peripheral port, put the bridge board in there, and just do a bit of wheeling and dealing. But it was, you know, it was very cheap back then in those days, you know, compared to now. You know, it's a different world, really.
Yeah, I read that. So that wheeling and dealing stuff turned into a bit of a career for you in developing automotive parts. Is that right? Yeah.
So in the 80s, I went through as a fitter and turner, and then I finished up working for Nestle, doing high-speed wrapping machines and doing stuff at the dairy. I learned TIG welding, and then eventually one day I fell off a ladder, and I was mates with EJ from Royal Purple, and like we sort of grew up together, and he was building these London taxis. They put V6 Commodore motors in them, and he said, and I was on crutches, I had beads in my hair, and, you know, dreadlocks and whatever, and he said, come down and, while you're on compo, come down and meet these guys from this taxi thing. And it turns out they're all the guys from Benson's Turbo, and this is all in its infancy. This is in 1991, I reckon. And so I went down there while I was on compo to do some bench work, and all the guys, it was really interesting. So Bruce Garland was the engineer there, who's still, you know, we still know Bruce.
Yep.
Back then, he'd just come back from working for Rally Art in Europe, and Steve Kerr was ex-Benson's Turbo. So there was all these turbo guys. I'm like, this is really cool, you know. So I basically just jumped in with them, and I was the fabricator in that operation. I left where I was working for a lot less money, but I just had the passion for the car guys and to learn. And then me and Bruce, when that venture ended, I started a company called Performance Metalcraft, which basically we were sort of really pioneering the turbos part in the world, really, you know, back in the early 90s. And, you know, Pack Performance just started, so they become one of my biggest clients, Mazda, Melbourne, all these guys, and it just grew from there. So, you know, a lot of the guys that are still around today, I knew they were around then, you know.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I guess I read one of the cool cars you worked on was the Mazda RX-7 SP. That's pretty.
So that's an interesting story, actually, that one. So back in the early 90s, when they first came out, a guy turned up my workshop, and the guys down, BD4s were down to the road for us. They were HKS dealer. This guy turned up my door with this car. I'd never even seen it before. It was a brand new RX-7 SP. And he said, you know, I want to hold it up. I've heard you guys. I said, look, I don't know. I can have a look at it. And it's all the principle the same. You know, we'd free up the intake and put a bigger exhaust on it and fix the intercooler and all that stuff. So we did all that stuff and dynoed it and I made it. I can't remember what it made, but it made a lot more power than standard. And Peter Muir from Bond Roll Bars used to come on Friday afternoons and have a beer with us, yeah? And he was preparing all the cars for Mazda, the BP course cars. Anyway, I said, you know, look, we just did this. I showed him the dyno sheet. He said, is that what power it made? Really? Can I borrow that dyno sheet? And he took it to Mazda. And on Monday morning, Alan Horsey was on my doorstep. But what's even more interesting about this story is the guy that owned that car was a guy named Herbert Applerob, whose parents at the time owned Aeroplane Jelly. But he actually went on to become the CEO of Ferrari Australasia, believe it or not, many years later. And there's a bit of controversy. I'm not going to go into all that stuff, but it was an interesting thing. And from that thing, I sort of became involved with Mazda Australia, and we did basically every SP I was involved in the design. You know, I didn't do it myself, but I was certainly involved in a lot of the consulting and most of the prototype manufacture I did, design work and so on and so forth. Mazda actually, that would have been 90, just before Drift Australia started, the year before, they gave me an MX-5 that we actually built into a drift car. We're going to do it. It was going to be a semi-worked pro team, but it never got off the ground quick enough.
Okay.
And Alan was like, you know, if you can fund a bit of it to get going, then, you know, we'll see if we can get it working for you. But at Drift Australia was meant to happen that year. It didn't quite happen. So, unfortunately, I had to give the car back. And that was one of those things it could have been, you know. There was a potential to become a, factory drift team with Mazda, but yeah, it never happened. But it was certainly an interesting time in life, and we went on to do the, MX-5 and the RX-8, and then as time went on, and it was cool story.
And no doubt that sort of, did that then develop into high octane racing, that sort of all that workmanship?
Yeah, well, so Performance Metalcraft and high octane racing run alongside each other for a long time. We actually went into developing, in the late 90s, I was preparing a lot of like tarmac rally and circuit GDR skylines. Back in those days, there was not a lot of that going on. They're quite expensive, and sort of I had a bunch of customers that we just, did track days and Target Tasmania and bits and pieces, and then High Octane sort of evolved off the side of that, and eventually I sold Performance Metalcraft to Leon, who worked for me for years. He's still going, still manufactures a lot of the top stuff, and and I took off with the High Octane, which sort of eventually grew into World Time Attack, I guess,
Around 2007, that's right. You started a super lap.
Yeah, no, so what started that really was we took Mark Berry's GTR to Japan to run at Tsukuba. It was just a dream of his, and we were able to help him execute it. Mm-hmm. And we had the wrong tyres. We had no idea really. Like, Mark was a really clever engineer, and I said to him, mate, all the tyres are running in Japan, they're all super soft tyres. He said, mate, it won't last on the car over there. They won't last on the GTR. But he'd been running in Australia, in Queensland, I guess, mostly, where the lowest temperature you get is probably 22 degrees up there. We arrived at Tsukuba, it's about 4 degrees. Yeah, wow. And you couldn't buy the tyres, you got to pre-order them all. So it was a lesson learned. The car did a 59 seconds from memory, but could have gone a lot faster, but we had an amazing experience. And I guess, and that started the whole super lap at Oran Park. And I said to Mark, at the airport on the way home, I said, we're going to do this in Australia, like, especially back then.
Over a beer. You probably said that over a beer, right? For sure.
I think we had enough beer by this stage. No, but what it was that was, especially back in that part of the 2006, 7, 8 era in Japan, all the pro cars were M Speed. Like, you walk into the pits over there and you're like, man, this is killer. The cars were just a level that you don't see here. Yeah. And I said to Mark, I've got to bring this back to Australia. I didn't know how I was going to do it yet, but I said to Mark, we've got to bring this back to Australia. And he said, if you do that, I'll build an R34. And we shook hands, right? And he started drawing it on the back of a napkin what he wanted to look like, And then I guess I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just said, we come back here and I go, right, we've got to run a time attack event. Never even run a track day. I've got to do this, right? So I rang up Nathan. I don't know if you remember Nathan Luck.
Yes.
Express. So I rang up and said, dude, I want to run this time attack event. He goes, you know what? You need to meet my mate at Yokohama Tyre. And that day we drove around there, and they become my first sponsor, naming rights for $3,000. Wow. That's what kicked it off. And I'll tell you, I'd never run a track day before. Now, we literally turned up at the track, but I had a lot of interest in, because I guess we had customers from High Octane, and we amped it up. Like, we're going to do this time attack. I've come back from Japan. I've got all these ideas, and the industry got behind it. Even like how tiny it was then, it was really exciting, and everyone was excited about doing it. And so I'd come the day, I was like, everyone's going, so what are we doing? I'm going, I don't know. I've got no idea, man. I've never even done this. So it was a real lesson. Every time was a lesson. That's never changed. Every year we got better and better. Of course, now we've got a cast of thousands running a show, and it's we spend more on security than what we spend on the whole operation in day one. Double probably.
I bet. Is there a super lap or World Time Attack where the penny dropped and go, you know what, this is a bloody killer event?
No, so you know what? I'll go back to. So we did super lap in 2008 and 2009.
Yep.
And then Oran Park was closing, right? So Jeff Boulos, who actually is still my race director to this day, he's worked every single event for me. He's never left. See, people don't leave, you see. And so we Oran Park was closing, and I said, we are simply not going to have enough revenue coming in to cover the cost of running at Eastern Creek. So we're going to have to do something crazy. Like, we're going to bring these international cars here, So I went down to Christian Hansen at Yokohama. I said, I need to talk to you. Man, you've got to help me bring these cars in. We've got to go to America and Japan. America was starting to go with the red line time attack and super lap battle and stuff. And I said, we've got to bring these cars in, I think if we can it's going to have to be big so that we can get enough revenue in to pay all the bills and pay all the people. And so he said, how much do you need? I said, about $100,000. He said, mate, I'll lose my job if I give you $100,000. So then I talked his boss into paying for his airfare to come to me with Japan. I'm not going to lie, this is a true story. I drove around Japan with a one-page document trying to get these teams to come to an event that didn't exist, right? and you got to remember, this time attack is their gig, not mine, right? Yeah. So I'm from Australia, and we went to mines, and a whole bunch of really famous tuning shops, right? And I'm driving around with pretty minimal Japanese language, saying, you want to come to our event, And the first team to commit to come was a team called Pan Speed. And we're out to dinner with we're at this fugu restaurant, which is like pufferfish, yeah. And the wife of the guy, she sort of runs the whole show, you know. So she said, "Okay, we're going to come." And I went, "Really?" And she said in Japanese, I went, "Yep." So they said, "Yeah, they're going to come." I went, "Really? That's so awesome. Thank you, you know." And then she said, and Steve Glennie was, and she said, but he's looking at this fish. He goes, I'm not going to eat that, man. It's poisonous fish. She said, in Japanese, she said, "If he doesn't eat that, we're not coming." And I'm like, "Man, you got to get into this." So then she was like,
That's funny.
So then they said, "Yeah, we're going to come." You know, cool car, the yellow RX-7, you probably remember it. But then she said, "Look, we're a Dunlop team, you know. At this stage, we didn't run any control type. I said, "Sure, you can run whatever you want." And they had a Super GT driver, so a pretty cool thing, you know, Super GT driver. Then, so they brought
the yellow RX-7, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I remember it in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first year we had them, and then and then the WRX teammate agreed to come, and then the Cyber Evo said they'd think about it, right? And then I think Tarzan talked them into it, actually, right?
Yeah.
Then we flew from Japan to America, and I want to get the fastest cars from there. So that was Sierra and FX Motorsport, yeah, the NSX. So FX agreed to come. That's another story. They didn't make it, the Blue Orange up. But Sierra, like so Dennis is a really nice guy, super successful businessman. I think if he's not a billionaire, he'd be bloody close to it. And he's a real passionate racer, you know. I don't know if he ever raced himself, he owned racing teams, Formula Atlantic and so on. And I said, you know, we're never going to get this guy. So I pulled out my English document, one-page document now, right? And said, so I went over to him and said, you know, we're doing this thing in Australia. We're going to make a world event of Time Attack, you know, and I'd love to get you there. And I said, and I'll tell you what, because I said, we're never going to convince this guy to come unless there's a carrot. So I said, I'll tell you what, if you win today, I'm going to ship your car there. And he looked me in the eye and he goes, I'll hold you to that, right? And I went, we got this guy. They're going to win today. So then they won, and he basically come up to me in the pits. He goes, "Hey, buddy, I want to talk to you." He said, "Where are we going to?" "Austria." I said, "No, we're going to Australia." So the cool part by then, right? So then Christian's a car guy, but he was a marketing manager at Yokohama. So he's going, "Are they coming? Do you get them? Do you get them coming yet?" I said, "What does it matter, mate? You can't pay for it. So we've got no money to do it, right?" So he's like, "We're going to work out how to do this, okay?" So he, you know, on the way home, we went to SEMA show then. So we walk into the SEMA show and he goes, "So what do you reckon if I'll do a deal with you on the door? I'll go, yeah, whatever we make half and I'll ship the car." I went, "Done, we're on. World Time Attack is happening, right?" So then we're on, right?
This is all from one piece of paper, right?
Well, no, it's a case of it's got, look, you know what it is, Josh, over the years, everyone says, "Get me a sponsor." I say, "Well, what's in it for them?" Like, it's got to be a two-way street. So we started like that, and from day one, like, they're still with me hand in hand from every year. We don't, you know, and it's worked for both me and them, you know. Yep. But that's how it started, and it just grew from there, really.
You still got that piece of paper?
I probably do somewhere. But you know what though? That's what it took to do it. You know, as mad as it sounds, that's what happened.
Yeah, it's an unbelievable story. I'm sure it had a fingerprints and pufferfish all over the piece of paper by the time you got to America.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? The crazy part about it is, I love Jason's having a real go now, but for many years, you know, drift in America is huge. Formula Drift is massive. You know, like they've got multi-million-dollar budgets. They've got corporates. They've got manufacturers involved in that. So Time Attack has sort of been kicked around the floor over there. You know, they've had a lot of deals go wrong, and I don't know the whole. It's not my job to speak, but Jason's having a go at it now, and he's a really good guy. He's passionate about it, but it's harder than it should have been because of what's happened previously. Okay. You know, and it's sort of, and because there's bad taste left in people's mouths from previous things of I don't know what, but America's the market that really should have kicked off. But in fact, we got to go in here in Australia bigger before anyone else. So
yeah,
and the Japanese love coming here. You know, it's cool.
I see them in the pits. That's definitely even for the drifting or for Time Attack. Absolutely loving it. Absolutely loving it.
So there was two guys this year that I was in Japan last year about this time, and these two guys were at GCG Turbo in Japan, my mate's shop there, and he said, "These guys are coming up from Hiroshima to see you," and I'm like, "Really?" Yeah, so they caught the bullet train up and hired a car, and then they've driven out the shop, and they're like, we want to come to World Time Attack, you know. I'm like, really? What do you got? They've got these 2 RX-8s, yeah? Sort of like club sprint class cars, you know, like, doesn't matter, man. This is our dream. And they did it, man. They funded their own way out of here. That whole bunch of RX-8 club enthusiasts that sort of helped them. And I guess that's the real nuts and bolts of what we do. Like the pro show at the top is for the fans.
Yeah.
But the stuff down all the way up is the dream of people, you know, and that's cool stuff, yeah. You know, there's car culture,
passionate people in those garages. You walk up and down the front there, and it's sure it's the ultimate teams, but I guess a lot of you're saying is what is true. A lot of that's propped up by these passionate guys. It's filled full of pit lane.
But Josh, you know, the whole even open class now, like the cars are nuts, man. They've all got billet engines and like it's something because you know why? Look, and this is my philosophy that I think to race any series of anything, and I look, great to have them, but it's not what I do because it's very time consuming, costly, and we're once a year rock and roll. This is the big day out. This is and you know what? You can come to this show and look over. Taniguchi's in the garage next door to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Tarzan's driving that car. And Shane Van Gisbergen's in the car next to you. So there's all these like rock stars and you're there too, and you're part of it. Like it's almost unachievable in almost any other form of motorsport, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, how many classes would you have now? About 6 or 5?
No, so we've got we have 4 classes of time attack, and then we have the drift and the flying 500 and all these other shows that make it what it is, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess would you have a favourite year? You think? I mean, I guess they're all be placing your heart. You got one year where you go, you know what, that was super cool.
Well, that Pagani was getting that year, and I still touch myself when I say, you what? Like the story behind that, you know, like so. Dino from Speed Hunters rung me one day. He said, "Look, I'm coming to Australia." He was doing some of the PR for Pagani, and he said, "Can you get us a hotel?" And I went, "Yep, no problem." I booked him a hotel. He said, "Listen, come and meet Alberto, the little guy from Italy who's organising everything." He said, "There's a chance one of the cars might be in Australia when your event's on, you know, and we might be able to put it on display." I went, "For sure," you know, so a little PowerPoint presentation, and we went out and had breakfast at Darling Harbour, you know, and I'm showing all this stuff, and he goes, "Stop! I love your passion," you know, Italian, yeah. He goes, "I love your passion." He said, "Hey, we have the car, the proper track, Pagani. I will ship it there for you." Are you kidding me, right? And you know what? He shook my hand, and he did it, man. That was they air freighted that car here, and at the same time, right? I'd organised to get Tsuchiya here, yeah. So he's like, and they kept sending my guy emails. What am I driving? I'm going, I don't know yet. You know, like we're just gonna. And then I said, "You're driving a Pagani Huayra BC." Like, are you serious, man?
It's an eye opener.
Like, there was 3 of them in the world, you know. And I mean, even back then, I think it was €3.5 million or something, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it was all that. So that kind of story, and then so everyone kept, you know, the whole internet was ablaze with Tsuchiya's coming. I wonder what he's driving. You know, everyone's got all these things. Surely he's going to be driving an AA6, or surely he's going to be driving that, or wouldn't it be cool to see him in that? And then we went, bang, he's coming. He's driving that. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
So that, and also I think the 767 was pretty cool too.
Oh, that was unbelievable. Yeah, absolutely.
That was another thing. That actually crashed the whole website for a day. I don't think, because there were so many things we couldn't even get that back up. It was back then. It was a lot more. Yeah, the whole internet was not as what it is today. So you know, to crash it was a lot easier. You know.
I remember I was at a Pirelli event in Melbourne about a year ago, and Horacio Pagani was at the event.
Yeah, I heard that too.
I thought he was this big tall guy. He stood next to me, and he came up to about my waist.
He's not even Italian. He's Argentinian. You know that?
Yeah.
But that's a cool story in itself. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen. So to touch on Tsuchiya for a second, obviously to you, he's become a buddy. I guess you know.
Yeah, I'm good mates with him, and we always catch up. You know, again, a lot of these people become your personal friend. You know, it's not just business. It's yeah, and we all, every time I'm in Japan, I go and have dinner with him and his wife, and we hang out, and we've become good mates. You know, he's a really good guy, really good, and he's a car racer, right, by profession. He's an absolute diehard enthusiast as a human being. You know, and you know when he first come here, he said to me, you know, he goes, "This is actually one of the best events I've ever been to." You know, and I went, are you kidding? Like, you won Le Mans. You come second at Le Mans driving the Toyota GT1, and you're telling me this is better than that. He goes, no, that's work. This is fun. You know, like, because then he said, you got someone screaming in your ear, slow down, save the fuel, do this, do that. And it's really serious work, but this is fun. And, you know, you've only got to watch his hot version videos and that to see, you know, like, he's a car nut, you know.
Oh, you can see it I used to watch all the old best motoring videos on
Absolutely.
VHS back in the days, and, you know, they'd blow your mind. The nice, simple way they'd review the cars, and they're just talking, you could see. That was going to be my question, basically. I guess the professional guy, he's a racing guy, but as a mate, no doubt, he just seems like a normal, humble dude, and I guess he's like that in person too.
Oh, top fella. Yeah, top fella. It's so, you know, so is Taniguchi's a good guy. Again, another car nut. Max Dorito, top fella. Don't go drinking with him. You won't get home till 7 in the morning, but he's a good guy. But yeah, again, another car nut, you know.
Give us a rundown of like the weekend of Time Attack. So you wake up Friday morning, you know, your day's got to be insane. Like, what time you get up, and it is just over the 2 days. Give us
Well, actually, like in years gone by, I was talking to Amy Boatwright, who used to be one of my event managers, and we used to be, you know, my phone battery would be flat by 9 a.m., you know, and you just run off your feet. These days, we've got a lot of management in positions, and it's, for me, I don't have to actually do anything like I used to. So it's not, you know, I've got people looking after everything. So it's not really stressful for me anymore. As long as things are happening, basically I can always walk around without a radio now, which is how it should be, really. But so I actually enjoy it a lot more now than I used to.
I guess it probably wasn't like that in the early days, but you were probably around.
Oh, it was lunacy. Well, we didn't have any staff. We didn't have anything. And, you know, it was still big even then. And everything's like, so what do I do now, Baker? And I'm going, I don't know. Can you stand there for a second? Let me answer the phone and speak to this guy, you know?
Yeah.
Where we don't have that anymore. It's all,
And I guess because it's your event, you probably wanted to micromanage everything, but then you sort of learned to let go a bit, I guess.
Well, I mean, I used to unpack the containers, right from unpacking the containers to sweeping the floor with the garage before we went home. But it's too much. You can't. You live and learn that, you know, you just can't do it all yourself, and you burn out, and then you start making more mistakes. And so, you know, it's but we're 10 years deep, so you know.
To touch on the word, the filthy word in everyone's mouth, COVID. I guess you saw it early. You obviously pulled the pin early because I guess not bad foresight for an event. You know, I guess running person is yourself. Is that what's the story there?
Well, so the first thing for us, over and above what say even V8 supercars have to think of, or any of the other series apart from Formula One, we're international, right? Yeah. So it's World Time Attack. My shipping agent rang me in February and said, listen, if you're going to run that event this year, you want to be very careful because we're already having trouble with freight.
Wow.
With containers getting stuck in China. And he said, I just advise you to think very carefully. And then, so I knew there was going to be border closures, and that was the biggest fear. So imagine you got under Suzuki coming, you got all these cars coming, and they can't get in.
Yeah.
So there was a chance it was going to be all good by October. There's a big chance it wasn't going to be. And as you can see now, it's not going to be.
Potentially.
So basically I sat down with the CEO of Sydney Motorsport Park, and he said, you know, you need to make a commitment to us now. My suggestion is think very carefully because there's no out clause. And once you sign the document, which is fair, you know, he did the right thing by me, and said, you know, this is our document. And if you take it on, you got to take it on, which I have every year. But this year was very different, you know, and I just didn't feel good about it. So I just said, no matter what, I'm going to make a decision now. I believe I'm making the right decision. As it turns out, I couldn't have been more right, you know. As sad as it is, you know, but look, and it's affecting everything. I'm watching all the stuff with, you know, the poor V8 supercars and any of the sports that run nationally. Like, they're planning, you know, we're going back to Sydney Motorsport Park now. Well, now the Victorian teams can't get here. Now, you know, it's an absolute debacle. It's a once in 100-year thing, isn't it? You know, but what do you do? We just got to,
just got to get on with the show. Man. Get on with the show, I guess. I guess.
What else we can do?
So 2021, I guess no doubt it's sort of like if you get the feels for it to be right, it's a matter of just picking up the notebook and starting from the point one.
Well, so I mean, I've been asked this many times, and I mean, we've created a monster, really. And and without the investment of people from around the world building cars to come here, we wouldn't have what we are today. So I respect all that. And I've got people like emailing me weekly, man, I just spent $500,000 on a car to come to your event. I'm like, can you guarantee we were going to run next year? I'm going, well, how can I guarantee anything like this? Look, normally I'd say absolutely, but in these conditions, I can't see, if our borders aren't open, well, you can't get in.
Yeah.
There is a possibility we could run a national event, and I was actually going to start talking about that. I had a meeting planned with the New South Wales government to discuss this in July, but when you've seen all the borders are closed again, there's no point in discussing it. You're really just, wasting your time and theirs, and we just got to sit on the fence until, not lose the passion, but we can't, even, people said you should put videos up. I'm going, it just encourages, people are hungry for what we do. And I don't blame them. Like, I love it too, but we just got to wait till it calms down a bit and we can get some light at the end of the tunnel, then we start getting a bit of a clarity of when we can go again,
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, I look forward to that being the truth, hopefully. It's a killer event you've made, mate, over the years, putting in all the hard work. I guess I know that a lot of you've had people help you along the way, but
Absolutely.
as the rock star of the show, mate, it's credit to you. Absolutely.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it, man.
No worries, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast, mate. We really appreciate it. We could talk all day.
Good to talk to you.
No worries. I looked for my Chelsea scarf. I couldn't find it, so maybe after you beat us, maybe we'll leave it at that.
Thanks again, man.
Thanks, Baker. All right, thanks, mate. Bye. Skid Ad. This Skid Ad is brought to you by Shannon's Motoring Insurance. How mad are skids?
Seaman loose Q. In fact, issues where we're not seeing Jason Schmidt. He drew number 5. It's now number 6. Jack Seaman in the Masters for the very first time out of Wagga Wagga. This blown injected small block makes around 1,000 horsepower. And that's to the rear tyres. So far, so good for Jack. He delivers a nice, hard, fast tip in. And again, another of these drivers to go straight down into the bottom end exit chute. Spin it around and then to bring it back straight across the donut pad up towards the start line. Effectively a straight line burnout so far with a 180. Now, like we saw from Matt James, he will no doubt finish off this performance right there, dead centre of our donut pad. The Polytron Lubricants donut pad, of course, is where the action is at. Right here at Street Machine Summonats 31. And Jack Seaman absolutely smoking in the pad, the grandstand and all the crowd.
We've got 5 first-time finalists in the 10 today and 4 rookies. Incredible that 4 of the drivers who'd never been to the Burnout Masters made their way through to the final 10. Jack being one of them, and big-time skid from Loose Q. Actually saw him cruising around the venue in this car earlier today as well. So he's been driving it around. Now he's out there doing what he loves most. The big fella, Jack, parking it out there today. And again, that's his second helmet in 2 days.
Yep, second helmet that he's thrown into the crowd as a memento in 2 days, obviously with a helmet sponsor on board.
All right, welcome back from a skid break. We're here with a very cool person indeed. He's one of my favourite people of the motoring world, one of a handful also that gives me proper beard envy. He's recently moved from editor of Street Machine magazine to a new role with the same publisher, brand content director, overseeing magazines such as Wheels, Motor, 4x4 Australia, Unique Cars, and Street Machine. Welcome, Simon Telford, or as we all know him, Telfo. Tell us, Telfo, you're surely living the automotive dream this far in life, right?
It's the best job in the world, mate.
It's got to be, surely. I want to take you back right to the start, mate. Let's rewind all the way. Tell us about early Telfo days. How did you get into cars?
From my family, both my grandfathers are mechanics, and my uncles in the 70s had Tiranas, GTRs, SLRs. Another one raced Speedway. But my stepdad's my biggest influence. He's right into early Holdens, FXs and FJs. So got to, watch him building cars from a very early age, then going on car runs with those guys, going to the drags at Surface Paradise, Group C touring cars at Lakeside. We drive there in our Tirana. Our next door neighbour would drive there in his RX-7, and we watched Brock and Moffat race around Lakeside. In those days, you could park right up against the fence and watch in your car.
Wow.
It was the dream. And he also brought every car magazine on earth home. So Street Machine, Street and Street, Performance Street Car, Wheels, Motor, the whole lot. So I never had any chance. I was always going to be a car dude.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm guessing from that, Telf, that you must have grown up in Queensland when you said you went to Lakeside.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. So Bundaberg and then down to Brizzy.
Yeah, right.
And then we got dragged to Sydney in 87.
be cool being at Lakeside back in those days. Like, if you imagine the cool pics you could have from, like, if you're just doing some candid shots around there, like, be some cool dudes dressed in some cool gear and cool cars.
Amazing. It's the first time I ever saw a Purvis Eureka. Owen will remember these little kit cars based on a V-dub where the whole canopy raises up, and there was two of them parked up against the fence. And I'm like, Dad, is that a Ferrari? And he's like, no, it's just a
V-dub. Poor man's Ferrari.
Yep.
What was your first
Not
car?
as poor as that guy who, backed his F40 into the trees today.
Oh, I saw that today. Yeah, wow.
Yikes.
Yeah, even though this is Tuesday and it's live, everyone, it's
yeah, the other week.
That's right. What was your first car, Telf? Not a Ferrari F40, I don't imagine.
No, FJ Holden, of course.
Of course.
In Sydney off a guy called Butch Brown, who's very famous in the FX and FJ scene. Typical hottie, red motor, triples, drum brakes, all the go and no slow. And I painted it up like an Appendix J car, race car. And I drove that every day for years to work in Sydney traffic. Like, man, before the M2 was made up up from, the Hills District up to North Ryde, like slogging it through the traffic and up and down Parramatta Road. Crazy. Like, why did I do that? It was an angry, stupid car. But yeah, loved it. Drove it to Queensland. We went to the FXFJ Nationals in Tassie one year. Yeah, fantastic car. Taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about, once my stepdad moved back to Queensland, I had to fix the bloody thing myself then, and got no money, so you got to do everything yourself, and that's really when you learn the bits and pieces. Yeah,
I was going to ask you, with a car like that, no doubt you were very hands-on.
Constantly covered in grease and smelling like petrol and oil, and typical stupid young guys. And of course, I didn't have a trolley jack probably the first 10 years, just a bottle jack. And you look back and you go, what was wrong with me? How did we?
Yeah.
And you're pulling gearboxes out of cars with a bottle jack and a couple of axle stands. You go, no.
I remember I put a bottle jack on the side of an Evo once and I crushed all the silly. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Hey, Telf, I'm aware that you like early Holdens, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favourite FX, FJ? I reckon you would. What
Yep,
do you really
absolutely.
like? Yeah.
To start with, was Rex Webster's for a long time. Still
I thought
love
it might
that
have been.
car, of course.
Yeah, awesome.
That car just changed the game and the detail on that engine bay with his brother Tony, of course. And took it to the States and dominated over there. Who would think to do that? In the late 80s, early 90s. He was so far ahead of his time.
Sure was.
Probably my favourite ever is Colin Townsend's FJ, which won Street Machine of the Year.
What did I know you were going to say that? It was just an awesome car. And I actually caught up with him only probably a year or two ago. And and even though he had to sell the car, he's still sort of like the custodian of it. So it's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah.
It was, it came out of that Mark Sanders era of early pro touring. So this car, if you have never seen it, is like an FJ that's been widened and has basically race car chassis, has a big angry Holden V8 with quad Webers, top loader, the engine's set right back, the massive gearbox tunnel comes into the cabin, so you're fully sitting up like a race car. And I remember reading the original story, and the guy got to drive it then, and he's like, yeah, this thing handles and stops and does everything right. Then I got to drive it when I joined Street Machine, and he was right. It's one of the most sorted cars I've ever been in, highly modified cars. Everything works.
Yeah.
Everything's there for a reason. Incredible car.
Yeah. And it's black.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
A lot of people know you for your EJ Holden, Telvo. Give us some background on that car.
Yes, after I sold my FJ, briefly bought an MX-5 because I thought I need to buy a car that handles. I'm a motoring journalist. I need to learn how to drive. So I eventually figured that was a bad idea. Got rid of that. Bought a stock EJ that was running but had lots of rust. And I was kind of influenced by Paul Kelly, who's one of the big behind the scene guys in the Australian custom scene, a real custodian of that custom heritage. Him and another guy, Aidan Jacoby, who draws a lot of concepts. A lot of the cars you see unveiled at Summonats have had Aidan, drawing up the concept for them. So those guys designed the car for me. Paul did some of the body work on it, and it's got it's basically designed to be a 1960s mile custom car. So lots of subtle body mods, candy paint, metal flake roof, all that stuff, all the period engine stuff. So very slow, but kind of cool. And yeah, love that car. Had such a good time in that car. Yeah.
There's pictures of it all over Australia. What's some crazy stuff you've done in it?
Oh man, we've been everywhere in that car. The first gig was Summonats, like typical story. Like got it registered on like New Year's Eve in Queensland. I built it up, all got done in Queensland because that's where the family was and that's where my mates were. And just spent a few months that year building the car up there. Screamed down to Summonats, got like within 50 k's of Canberra, and it popped a seal, like a rear main seal or something like that. So yes. Somehow I got it into the Rare Spares Pavilion without getting oil all over the place. And I left it in Canberra, and there's a guy there who races Appendix J, FXs and EJs, and he sorted that for me and brought it home. And since then it went everywhere into Barcaldine, which is in the middle of outback Queensland. They run a drag meet out there. So I drove up there with Simon Davidson one year, raced it up there. It's been to Red Centre Nats, of course, drove it all the way there for the first one. That was just an amazing experience. If you could ever get the chance to drive to Red Centre Nats from one of the other capitals in a street machine, you should do that.
Yeah.
It's been the Custom Nationals and Grease Fest. It won, not a very good car detailer, as my colleague Boris Viskovic will tell you. But yeah, it won Best Aussie Custom at those shows a couple of times. So yeah, super proud of that car.
So you Winter Sun in it as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, love Winter Sun. That was,
Or Cooley Rocks now, but yeah.
Yeah, one of the best times ever.
Yeah, it's really good.
But
So I believe it's no more. So what's the story there, mate?
She's dead. I decided to go to the Mud Run, which is a really cool event, kind of like Chopped up in the
with Webby.
With Webby, yep. And yeah, started driving and it was raining and things went pear-shaped in a big way and got collected by a guy. I was very lucky not to be. I got out of the car before he hit me, and so super lucky not to be. If I was in the car, I think I'd be in a bit of a mess. So I got hit on the back, and then it pushed it into the wall. Got the front, so she's kind of in a bad way. The roof is bent, and you could fix it. Like, if I got Owen and a bunch of other guys together, I'm sure I could fix it, but it would be a lot of money and a lot of time. And it's like, I don't know if I have the heart to do it. So I might rebody the car, get another shell, put some of the bits in there, and let it continue that way.
Yeah, I actually heard that from a colleague of yours, or a friend of yours of mine, Frank Tedesco.
Oh yeah.
Mate, aren't we lucky to have guys like him still in our scene, mate? When he goes, man, I think we're going to lose so much history, aren't we?
Lucky with Frank, he's got his son Anthony, who's passing all the. Frank is one of those last of the real mechanics who.
Isn't he?
You drive into the driveway and you've come into like, oh, this thing is, I can't figure out how to fix this. He'll hear 5 other things just by ear.
Yeah.
He got to know him through Mario Colillo, who did a lot of work on Mario's Cadillac and other cars in this, like, is a real suspension guru. But yeah, if there isn't anything about early Holdens he doesn't know, he's the man.
It's fantastic.
Very funny dude.
So it's not only old Holdens you like. You've had a Lincoln Continental, massive one of those with suicide doors. What's that like to drive around? Surely nuts.
They're a crazy car. I went to America to buy. I thought, the dollar was good then, and people were bringing a lot of cars back. So I thought, I'll go get a 61 Thunderbird. I've always liked one of those. Make a mild custom out of that. Couldn't find one. And all the stuff you hear about, you go to this state or that state, it's dry, like there's no rust.
Yeah.
Not true in my experience. You can find rusty cars anywhere. And of course, Americans don't have the same idea about rust as we do. I think they think if you can't see a giant hole in the door, it's not rusty. And you'll get under the car and go, why can I put my fist through the floor? Oh no, that's fine. Because I don't think they obviously don't have the rego sort of checks that we have. They can get away with a lot more, as you know. So yeah, we bought this Lincoln off a jazz musician in Austin, Texas. Really cool dude. And yeah, drove it back across Route 66, which is a lot of desert. Like in 1 minute you're in the desert and it's Wile E. Coyote territory, the Roadrunner with the crazy thing sticking up out of the ground and big meteor craters. Yeah, and then,
fantastic.
6 hours later you're in the mountains and it's snowing. And I'm driving, and Lincolns are like worse than Cadillacs. They're really complicated cars. They're super high tech for the day. Like they have really trick things, lots of luxuries in them, but they still have drum brakes. and things like wacky things like vacuum central locking. So there's miles of vacuum lines in the things, and it's got all this stuff, but then it still just has a lap seatbelt. Anyway, there's such beautiful cars to drive. This one brakes were absolutely shot, which was fine when you're out on Route 66, but when you're coming into LA at 80 miles an hour and everybody else is doing 90 miles an hour, pretty scary. But yeah, we got it home, fixed her up. Hopper Stoppers guys put some disc brakes on it for us, and yeah, really enjoyed cruising around in that car. Went to Summer Nats in it, went to Chopped in it, yeah. But then we moved to Melbourne. It didn't fit in our garage. It just literally was too big, and I left it in Sydney for a couple of years and used it as my Sydney car. I was like paying for a space there, and I'd fly in and get it, and of course it wouldn't start. But it was cool to have it there as my Sydney car, but that was kind of getting too expensive, so sold it in the end. But yeah, a bit sad. Babraham Lincoln. I'll always remember Babraham.
What's in the shed now, mate?
Got my old Triumph motorbike and a HZ 1-tonner. It's like the week after I crashed the EJ, I was like, I have to do something to deal with this trauma. And I've always wanted a 1-tonner and found one in Bundaberg. So flew up there, got it, drove it home, picked up some crap for some mates on the way back, and I've had it ever since. And yeah, it's pretty much every time I've taken it out is they say never buy a ute or never tell anybody you've got one, because pretty much I've had to pick something up every single time for somebody. So it's earned its keep. It's cool, but I think next to like a wagon or a van, they're a bit more practical, especially to go to those big events like Red Centre Nats, and you can sleep in the thing.
Sleep in the back, yeah.
Yeah, haul lots of stuff. And, we always have camera gear and all that jazz. So, yeah, we'll, when COVID settles down, I might put it on the market and see what else I can find.
Nice. You do a bit of drag racing too, right, mate?
Yeah, I'm really lucky that way. My stepdad has raced or built probably 3 FX drag cars. A couple of them being like fiberglass bodies based off the famous Wild Bill Smith funny car. And the last one he's built is a steel gasser. So that's the nose in the air and angry thing. It's called Barbara Ann, which is my mum's name. And I get to drive it. So fly to Queensland a couple of times a year and race it in the nostalgia drags up there. And yeah, it's amazing. So much fun. Really good group of guys. We're hoping to take it when COVID settles down, take it down to Sydney and race it at kind of a Gas Wars event that they had the fuel altered deal that Graham Cowan put on last year. They had a whole massive gases came from all over the country for that. And we want to be a part of that. So we'll definitely be back the next time that happens, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, mate, interesting when you said that. I just twigged in my mind. I went to, twice I've been to the 55, 56, 57 Nationals in the States at Bowling Green, and they have all the gases there. Oh, man, that was one of the greatest meetings I've ever been to in my life. They probably had, from memory, about 40 gases, but like obviously mid-50 Chevys. It was amazing. Yeah, wow. You would love that.
Yeah, the scale of stuff in America blows your mind. Like,
yeah,
you go to a race meet and, instead of, 4 or 5, nitro funny cars, nostalgia dragsters, they'll have 40 of them. And you go, wow, and they're all going fast.
And I just couldn't believe the stability. I'm like, when you see them, they're so high and the I-beam front end and everything, and you think, but they're running. Some of the good ones they were running 7 and 8 seconds. Like, they're really killer cars.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It is.
Touch on Street Machine for a bit, Telfos. Being the editor, obviously, it's a pretty prestige magazine in Australia. I mean, must have been a dream come true at the time. Is that what you'd?
Oh, I'd never dreamed I could even work for them, let alone be the editor. So yeah. No, it's every day I get up, and even now during COVID times, it's pretty tough. Like, we're obviously glad to have a job, but yeah, we're working super hard, and a lot of our mates don't have any work and that we normally would give work to. So it's pretty stressful, but I still wake up every morning and go, oh yeah, I got to go to work. I mean, I'm at home. I can't go to the office. We can't go and do much, but it's still like, hell yeah, I'll talk about cars today. Why not?
Absolutely. What's it like, though, in a nutshell, to be editor of Street Machine? I'm sure it's not all glam. It's a lot of hard work, no doubt, too.
It's a lot different. It was pretty good for a while there. Before the internet came along, it was a lot of fun. It was really, really cool. and the internet has opened everything up. So there's a lot more opportunity, but there's
a lot more work as well.
Instagram video stuff to do. Video is so time intensive to do. So it's back in the day, we used to have some pretty good trips to the pub, on a Friday and not come back. But those days are mostly over, unfortunately. But the upside is, we get to, and interact with people. Like you go to some of that, I must meet 400 people over a weekend. I can't imagine how many people Owen talks to. But now, like through Instagram and Facebook, I'm meeting all these people from crazy parts of the country who are doing crazy shit at home that I probably never get to meet, even though I do try and get to as many shows as I can. And that's probably the best part of it these days, is just seeing what's happening in every corner of the country.
Yeah,
mate, you've had some awesome cars, and like I see you at a lot of events, and you've had some awesome cars in the magazine. Do you have any sort of standout favourite cars over that period of time?
Oh, before my time, like when I grew up, all my icon cars were Holdens, of course, because I was a Holden kid. Yep. So, like I said, Rex Webster's FJ, Ronnie Barclay's HQ, Collins FJ, the Boot Champ, Tirana, Mark Sanders cars. We've got a big story on Mark Sanders in the magazine that just came out, actually, where we interview him and see what he's building. He's building like a Pagoda Mercedes with a Holden motor in it, which is really cool. So it's cool to be so far ahead of the curve, him and Craig Parker with the pro touring type of car. It's great to see what those guys are doing now. Yeah, and Phil Ryder's Tirana, which is also being rebuilt. Can't wait. The Raging Bull Tirana.
It is. He's on my list for unveiling. So absolutely. Pretty
much everybody's favorite pro street car ever.
Yeah.
And of the new era, I mean, really soft spot for Adam Labree's EH. That was one of the first covers I kind of organised and went to the shoot, and it just came the fact that he built in his backyard and painted in his backyard. And he was a Bobcat driver who just his wife was just trying to study and he was giving her the shit, so he just taught himself to build a car that was so audacious in its planning and execution.
Absolutely.
That was an incredible car. Adam Barnes's Hard HT is still one of my favorites. Like an amazing photo shoot by Easton Chang. But also, again, he was just nailed it. Like the interior on that car, it's what people should be doing. I think it's like it keeps the 60s muscle car vibe, but updates it and makes it really sexy.
Yeah, it was a great car. Yeah.
I know a lot of the guys on the Street Machine team, and over the years they've always said what a legend boss you are, mate. What's key to being a good boss in automotive publishing? Because I know it can be hectic, and I'm sure the guys would say the key would be good stuff, right?
Well, Jeff Seddon was my editor when I started, and he taught me everything I know. And his rule was surround yourself with geniuses. And that's pretty much when I got the job and we had to move from Sydney to Melbourne. We had to pretty much start from scratch. The first person I called was Scott Taylor, and never regretted that decision for one moment. He took us into the video age. He started his own YouTube channel, Scotty's Garage, a long time ago. He was shooting on tape.
Yeah.
Before the digital era. That's how far back he goes.
Correct. And he was really popular. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, still is.
So he invented Carnage, which is, just a copy of Roadkill basically on a budget in Australia. And with, with $5 to spend, like a tiny budget to start with, he's built it up into this massive thing. And he's got it, fully decked out workshop now with hoists and all the gear. And I take my hat off to him for his perseverance and passion. And, like they say, you should never read your YouTube comments. Like the comments on YouTube are just the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
But the people on there just engage with him and are really passionate and love what he's doing and can relate to him because he's, we're not pretending to be master mechanics or anything. Like Scotty's a pretty dab head with the spanner, but he's just figuring it out as he goes along, and all his mistakes are there. Whatever we do wrong or we blow something up, it's there. We don't hide anything. And I think that's what people dig. We've got great sponsors. We've got Ryobi, Valvoline, and Heron Forbes. We couldn't do it without those guys, but it's because Scotty puts the effort in to make sure those guys get the value that it's become a workable thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of the other guys too, like Broads and stuff over the years. They've always said what a great boss you are, and it's really cool to see Broad sort of step in there. He's a super car dude. He's had the same kind of dude who's had the same car since 15, 16, same Tirana, and still fiddle with it today,
Yeah. No, he's the real deal. Like, I love those photos of him like this gangly 16-year-old doing a burnout in the shed while his parents were away.
I've seen that photo.
You know, and then he's doing wheelies at Western Sydney Dragway last year in the same car,
Yeah, fantastic.
and just suffers with it, and it like has all the struggles and blows up every gearbox known to man, but just sticks with it, and it's a great car. It's one of those, it's identified with him. Even if you sold that car, you'd have to paint it and change it completely because it's always going to be Broads' choice.
He talks about selling it a lot, but I don't think he will.
No, I don't think he could.
No. Just to touch on the shitty COVID, I guess a bit of a pain for publishing in itself. What sort of it obviously presents problems with shooting cars, but you guys seem to have, from even speaking to Broads and yourself, pushing through, and everybody's working so hard just to keep the content. It keeps coming, the latest issues, like rad.
Man, we were so excited to have the Burnouts back at Summer Nats had organised for this weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that had to get pushed back. So
you mean last weekend, right?
Last weekend.
Do you want to start again?
No, it's all good.
We'll keep it as is here.
But luckily at the Kenda guys up in Queensland are racing this weekend. So our good mate Ashley Wilson's up there covering that for us. So yeah, we're really lucky. We've had some people donate their time because our budgets are slashed, unfortunately. But yeah, Broads and I and Brett and Leah and everybody else and Ken are just pedaling as hard as we can to make the content. And it's fun, kind of do all the hard stuff during the day, and at night time do the Instagram and the video stuff as a bit of fun.
Absolutely. I was going to touch on drag challenge because I've been to a few now just for the first day or two in the last 2 years. That's something you brought to life, right? Like it's something a bit of a child of your own.
It's definitely Scotty's child.
Okay.
I wouldn't have had the balls to do it without Scotty. Because again, it's a copy of something from the States. It's just Australian version of Drag Week, but in
Drag Week,
in Drag Week, you can drive a top door slammer down the road and the cops will just wave to you. A little bit different in Australia. So we thought, man, if we put this on, everybody in this event could just end up in a slammer or have their car defected. And everybody said that, it'll never work. The cops will wreck it. But not true. And how many years we're in now? Six or seven years.
I was going to say, 6,
Gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's full credit to Scotty for having the dream to do it. And I put a lot of work into it too. I love it. I love the coverage of it. Like trying to, we don't have, because of our second-rate broadband. Thank you very much, Malcolm. It's really hard to do a quality live stream in the bush.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we don't. I love the Drag Week live stream. I would love to do that, but it just isn't a thing right at the moment. So just working out all the ways we can give. It's like Summer Nats. There are 1,000 stories. Like some years we have like almost 250 cars. Some of these dudes drive from Perth. Not tow their car, drive from Perth, and then drive it for 5 days from track to track all around Victoria or Adelaide or South Australia.
And race it.
In November, in the heat or the dust or the rain. It's going to be one or the other. It's never just nice in their streak. And then they drive home to Western Australia. Like, what is wrong with these people? They're so passionate.
They're so passionate. And I've already said on one of the previous podcasts, Simon, that what they're doing there is they're starting to build cars now. It was sort of where the Burnout started now, really special cars for the top cars for the Burnout. And now they're building really special cars for the whole drag challenge thing. I was with a guy again today. He's building a 2,000 horsepower engine for his XWU just to get out there and make some power. No, the red one from Orange, the Moroni one from Orange. John. Yep. So crazy, isn't it? What's going on?
No, it's you go into any chassis shop or engine builder and there'll be one drag challenge car there now.
100%.
And they're so varied. Like there'll be a guy with a V-dub, like a fast aspirated 12-second V-dub, right through to these 7-second cars that are knocking on 200 miles an hour, which is pretty phenomenal.
How about that wheel stand that Pat pulled last year or year before? Wasn't that just unbelievable in the XR from Queensland? The Moroni Gold one, the big wheel stand.
Pat from Pat's Pro Restos, massive.
Wasn't that unreal?
Mark Drew has pulled a wheel stand like that in his Toronto. Yeah, they certainly. The guys like to run on a small tyre. There's some guys who run big tyres, but they kind of like to run a 275, and that's just the thing they want to do. They want to see who can be the fastest on a 275, and if you hook up, sometimes they really hook up.
I love the stroke
love
challenge
it.
with Scotty.
Love it. I hope we get to do it this year. The plan is to
Yeah, I
do
do
it.
too.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Regardless, if things really don't get better in Victoria, maybe we'll do it in Sydney or maybe we'll do it in Queensland, like a smaller
Okay.
version. But we
Yeah, good.
definitely have. It's like someone else. We just got to keep rolling on.
Even WA, who knows?
Pete, there's a dude in WA who's super passionate about. They only have one real track over there,
Yeah.
but he's kind of got it. He's talked to a few people and planned it out where we can do it on airstrips, and our cars are too fast for airstrips. They just are way too gnarly. But there's probably a pro touring type of, not pro touring. What's that? Hot Rod's big touring event, Owen. It's just gone from my mind.
The Power Tour.
Power Tour.
Yeah,
a Power Tour type event where you're not there to race for sheep stations or run sevens, but you're cruising in your cool car and having a bit of fun. So maybe that's something we can do in Perth one day.
I just love when Scotty gets in the back of the ute on the first day and he's like, all right, welcome to the track challenge with the big microphone, and everyone sort of comes in and he lays down the law and basically says the end of it, go and have fun. It's
great.
And they do. People behave themselves like they know they're out there. They've got to make it to the end. Yeah. And that's the balls of this thing. Like, you are a long way. If you're from Queensland and you're in the middle of rural Victoria and you blow your car up, how do you get it home?
You're a long way from home.
The audacity and the balls of these guys and girls is incredible. I love it.
What's at risk though in the pits? That's the cool vibes. It's like super cool vibes in the pits walking around.
Yeah,
everybody's happy. Hey mate, like it's really really cool.
Yeah, everybody helps each other. There's a lot of, even the guys who are super competitive and are racing for the overall win will help each other. So
that's what I was going to say. Even people like Frank from Danny Engines, like those guys, they're still so friendly and just help everybody out, don't they? Yeah.
So Harry, who won last year in the HQ, he did a rocker in the middle of nowhere, and he put out the call. And Frank had one, and it was Frank's team. So Daniel with the Monaro versus Harry. They're the two guys who were in it, and they're so close. And he gave me a rocket, and I don't think that would happen in any other form of motorsport.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah.
They did tie it to a grain silo about 100 meters in the air.
Go and get it.
They had to climb up and get it. And that's the spirit of Drag Challenge. It's incredible. Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Well done, guys. Great.
I hope to see it, mate. I definitely hope to see it. Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, mate. You're a super legend, mate. Appreciate your time. I'm sure everybody's liked. Thanks, mate. He's asleep now, I think.
Thanks, Telford. Really good to catch up, mate.
No worries, mate. Hopefully we'll see you in Canberra.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys.
All right, thanks, Telf. See you, mate. We'll catch up.
Skidad. This Skidad is brought to you by Maguire's.
All right, we're back from a skid break. How about those guys? Baker, Telf, awesome dudes, right?
As I said to you, they both got a lot of passion. What Ian had, he's actually got a really, really good vision. And as I said to you, I think he supported us and I supported him, or we supported him from the first event. And he had this terrific vision, and he never, ever swayed from it. just built and built, and he's got a great event. Yeah, really good event.
Yeah, super. That's why I said in the intro, I said crazy guy, not because crazy, because he's got that determination. Take one piece of paper, and take the guys from Yokohama to Japan and say, we want all these cars. They're like, who are you? And he's like, and they took it into America, the same thing. Like, that takes guts.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the risk, but what a great reward. And also with Telford, another guy with a lot of passion. He's a guy that started off at the bottom and just through hard work, actually, going to so many events, talking to the right people, getting to know the right people, and just building and building and working hard. And look where he is now. He's got a senior role with Bauer Media. So what a great career he's had. And he is actually living the dream. He loves what he does.
He is like the sensei of like automotive publishing. He's just a cool, calm dude who's like, he's just he's a good guy to have a chat with, and as everybody would have enjoyed that, definitely. All right, we want to see everybody's cars in the garage, what you're getting up to, cruising around. Send us an email to podcast@summonats.com.au. As you can see, these punters have been up to some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Looking good there. All right, Nolan, talking about punters, I believe you've got some entrants to show us from upcoming events.
I have. I've been back through the entrance lists again. So for Red Centre Nats, which is coming up real soon, only a few more weeks now, got number 54, Dan Alfman in a brand new Hatestead Kingswood. You'll see by the photos there that it's just been painted. Hopefully it'll be all finished by the time Red Centre comes around. That was a few months ago, that pick. He's from South Australia. For Motor X, we've got entrant 27, which is John Fafaro. He's got a black XY sedan, which I saw unveiled at Elvis's show cars in Melbourne in February. That was the last event that I think I actually went to, probably the last event that's been on. And he's the brother of the current Street Elite Grand Champion with the grey VC Twin Turbo Valiant. So that car is absolutely fantastic. Like Angelo's car, obviously to win Top Judge at Motor X is a great feat. So definitely. I'm sure he's learned a lot off his brother, and they built that together, or he's built that, and I'm sure he's helped him out. For Summer Nats, I've got number 97, Mark Williams. Now, that's not Happy, who was Grand Champion a few years ago.
Who we had on, awesome guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But this is another, same name, but got a lime Plymouth Duster, awesome US car. And then for Rocky, next Easter, I've got number 76, Nathan McDermott, with a fully rebuilt grey HQ coupe. Absolutely awesome car, and that's got an LSA. So, again, I'm looking forward to that event.
Mate, there's LSAs in just about everything, Webby. It's an LSA in this. Matt Watts has got about 40 LSAs in about 50 cars. The math don't add up there, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but why wouldn't you, J-Man? It's like if you do an LSA for a Holden or a Coyote for a Falcon, you got instant horsepower, you got reliability, you can run on any fuel, the fuel that's out there today. So you've just got a great car for cruising with heaps of horsepower.
Yeah, absolutely, and they don't sound too bad either when these guys tune them up as well. So they sound pretty badass. I'm a bit old school. I like the old school end motors, like the Holden motors and the VLs and stuff like that. But I can appreciate an LSA, someone dumping that in there, because all that power and that reliability, turnkey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, don't forget to get your tickets for Summer Nats 2021 and your entries in, because those 2,000 spots for entries will fill up. There's no doubt about it. Just don't wait around. Get your entries in, and then it's done. Same as the tickets if you want to come and spectate, because with people locked away, Summer Nats sometime in January, the place is going to be packed.
Packed, yeah, and exciting. Yeah, it's going to be a really big event.
You were saying there could be 40 cars to reveal. Who knows? Big builds.
Yeah, there's over 40 new cars to split up between Motor X and Summer Nats. So, and a lot of those guys just want to do Summer Nats. So, yeah, very exciting times.
All right. Obviously, we've said at the intro that this is the second last episode of season 1 of the Ride It Out podcast. Next week's people that we're going to have on, we can't reveal that just yet. But you will learn more in the coming days. Keep an eye on the Summer Nats socials. It's going to be a ripper. Yeah. It's going to give real good insight into some background on some on what Summer Nats is about and all that kind of stuff.
I've been doing while we've been locked down. I've been doing a full history on Chick Henry and Summer Nats, so we'll have a little bit of information about that, and where you can listen to that next week as well. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, 100%. But we will be coming back. If you want to email us, podcast@simonats.com.au. Tell us what you've loved about season 1. Let us know what you'd like us to slot into season 2, which will come after Red Sanonats, obviously. But let us know. We want to know. We want to know all the little stuff like that. You want to see Webby do some cooking or something like that?
That'd be good.
Burnt toast, that's what it'd be. All right.
All good.
This is it for podcast 16. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Cheers.
See you, Webby. Bye, mate.
Cheers.
Simon!